Hey guys, welcome back to Evike Tech Corner. Today I'm going to show you how to properly maintain, clean, and lubricate your M9 style pistol. I'm going to first start by doing a basic field strip and of course removing the magazine. Let's go ahead and perform the field strip real fast. Okay. Now that we have a basic field strip done, what you want to do is start wiping down all the parts and getting out any excessive lubrication, dirt, and that kind of stuff. Just grab a normal either paper towel, napkin, whatever you have on hand, something that doesn't leave lint behind. I try not to use cloths unless it's like 100% cotton. Just go ahead and give everything a nice wipe down. Don't forget to get inside some of the smaller crevices like inside of this barrel here. Just get everywhere you can. And this is something that people commonly forget. This will come off. Give your spring guide a really good cleaning. If this is dirty or have a bunch of debris on it, what's going to happen is your spring's actually going to start rubbing and catching on this. In fact, you can see this one's actually starting to do that, and it's just going to cause a lot of jamming issues. Your slide will get stuck, so just make sure you give that a nice cleaning. You do the same thing with the spring. Your next step is to wipe down and clean the inside of your slide. So just grab your cloth here, go ahead and wipe everything down. Get out all the dirt and grime. M9s having this open top here, they're notorious for jamming after playing outdoors and stuff because the guide rails are actually right here and they'll actually bind up and start jamming with a lot of dirt. So just wipe it down, and then if your pistol is really dirty, I do recommend you take the blowback unit out of this slide. I will put a link in the description once that video is posted as well, so you can go ahead and take down that blowback unit. Once this is thoroughly clean, grab your lower receiver and wipe down all the rails inside where your hammer is at. You don't want anything inside of there such as dirt or even small like pebbles or anything in there. All that out. And then as well as the hammer area back here, you're going to want to get inside of here. And again, depending on how dirty the pistol is, you may even have to take off your grips on both sides to get into some of these areas. I'll do a complete teardown video if you do happen to run into that. That will be in the M9 playlist. Once you have this fully clean, wiped down, you can even get an air duster to get inside of some of the smaller crevices. Once you have that done, you can start the lubrication process. I tend to do the slide first, but you can start anywhere you'd like. So grab your silicone-based lubricant. Don't use WD-40 or anything that is petroleum-based. It's just going to tear apart the internals of the pistol. Grab your silicone oil and very lightly lubricate the guide rails that are on the inside here. And then what I like to do is actually pull this forward and put a couple drops of cylinder grease inside. This is really good for the O-rings inside of there. If you don't have this, the silicone oil is completely fine also. So if you're using the cylinder grease or the silicone, just push your nozzle forward a little bit and put a couple of drops of that inside of here and just move the nozzle back and forth. Alright, once you have that done, go back to your silicone oil. On either side, you're going to see that there are springs. You're going to want to put a little bit of silicone in that area because the track where this nozzle actually travels on is right below those springs. So again, you just want to get the lubrication through it, so move the nozzle forward and back. don't go too far forward. If you push this too far forward, you can actually get this off its track and damage the springs and possibly even break the nozzle. Now, there's also a piston head in here. If I pull this all the way forward, it's going to reveal it. You're going to want to take your silicone oil or your cylinder grease there, put a real light spray on that piston. You need that lubricated. If that jams, that's commonly why you have a lot of gas purging out the side. I'm going to go ahead and move that freely. Make sure this is not binding, sticking. It should retract, just like this. If yours is not doing that, then either something's bound in there or something's jamming and it's not lubricated properly. Alright, so we're good to go on that. Your next step would be to lubricate and clean your inner barrel. Depending on the size of your inner barrel, you can either get an unjamming rod from the AEG or just use a Q-tip. I grab my silicone oil again and just put real light spray on the bucking, and then grab your Q-tip and shove it in the end and clean out as much as you can. You just want it slightly moist. You don't want it dripping everywhere. Alright, once you have this lubricated and cleaned out, you can go ahead and reinstall it back into the outer barrel assembly. So, you set that to the side. Next, you'll take your spring guide and spring and just give it a real light coating. You do not want a whole bunch of lubrication on this. This should be fairly dry. So, let's give it some time and then wipe down anything excessive that's on there. If this has excessive lubrication on there, what's going to happen is you're going to build up dirt and grime down here and your spring's going to bind. Alright, we've lubricated the slide. We'll go ahead and reassemble it from the field strip. Set it to the side for now. Next is your lower receiver. You'll want to start by lubricating your rails very lightly, and then depending on wear, such as this one, we're getting a decent amount of wear on the guide rails here. You could even use some lithium grease, but I don't recommend it for outdoor players. If you're going to be an indoor player and you only use your pistol indoors, this would be fine to use on the guide rails. The reason being is because of the dirt and stuff that's going to collect outside. The lithium grease, it has a higher chance of you actually collecting larger particles. Once you're done getting the rails, come inside here and you're going to see your trigger spring and everything in here. You're going to want to get very light lubrication on that, just so it's free moving and there's nothing going to bind in there. If it gets kind of dry, it's okay, but you do want to lube it inside. Your next spot will actually be the hammer spring back here. And just come in here, really lightly, again, lubricate that. Now, that process is not required every single time you use it or want to clean your pistol. You probably only want to do that every now and then when you see it starting to get dry. If you do it frequently, you're going to build up a lot of dirt inside of there. Your next step is actually right along here, where you have your trigger bar. You'll want to very lightly lubricate the track that it's going to ride in. Alright. And then one last place on the WeTex is actually right here. You see that little silver piece moving back and forth? That's actually your valve striker that will hit and actuate the valve on it. If this is jammed, when you pull the trigger, your valve's not going to do anything. So go ahead and make sure that's lubricated and cleaned nicely in there. And then again, what you want to do is wipe down any excessive lubrication. What I'll do for you guys is I'll actually show you how much of the lithium grease you want to use. It's very, very, very little if you do have to use it. So That should cover my entire front portion of my rails. Just that little touch there. So what I'm doing is I'm going to get it on the sides just a little bit, and then on the other side. So that's literally all you want. You do not want a ton on there. Once you have that done, you can go ahead and reinstall the slide. And then what I recommend you do, especially with these M9s, is to actuate everything. Make sure the magazine's not in it when you're doing this. And what you're doing is you're going to force out any excessive lubrication, maybe over-lubed in a certain area, and it'll force it out. You'd rather do it in a clean environment like in your shop or in your home than in the field when you're firing. You're just going to bind up. Alright. That pistol is good for now. The magazine is commonly forgotten to do maintenance on. That's why so many people have leaky magazines. You're going to first start by checking to make sure there's no no gas inside of the mag. The back valve, just compress it, point it away from you and anybody else, because if there is gas in here, it's going to purge out. So go ahead and push that valve in, and we'll start by lubricating it. Take this valve and compress it all the way in. You should be able to do it with your finger. If you can't, a small tool is fine also. Push it all the way in. On the top, you're going to have your square gasket. Spray your lubrication in there, and then actuate this valve. What you're doing is lubricating the internal O-rings on this valve when you do this. Alright. Your next step, depending on how dirty this magazine also is, if you start getting dirt and stuff binding inside of the tracks, there's 2 pins here on the bottom that you can punch, and you can actually pull the whole assembly out and clean internal. I'll do a separate mag takedown video for that. That will be in the M9 series playlist as well. For your next step, what you'll do is lubricate the bottom fill valve just a little bit. You don't want a whole bunch in there. Again, you don't want it to get dirt and debris building up in there. And then if you're an indoor player, again, and not an outdoor player, you can put a little lubrication in here, but you don't want too much because it's just going to get on the BBs and cause all kinds of problems. This is fine, so it doesn't need to be lubricated. Alright, that was a complete maintenance, takedown, clean, and lubrication of your M9. Thanks for watching.